And we're back. Welcome to the Lion's Den. I'm your host, the master of Magnificat and editor-in-chief of Leo, David Bose. Joining me today are two Leo legends. People, that would be me, call him Mr. T, T-Bone. And those who've had the pleasure of being edited by him, the butcher, Tristan van Heukelom. And in the other corner, weighing in at far less than us, it's the Duke of Demography, the mini-golf magician, the Czech Chad, the Bruno Bro, Kaiser Bauch. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
This is actually the first episode we're planning to air, so let's hope it all works out. That's what I said yesterday, and it didn't work out. So this is our second attempt, as we all know, and just for the public so they know why all of a sudden we're meeting in Google Meet instead of the software that is meant to do all of this. By the way, if you're listening and ever thinking about making a podcast, don't try Riverside. Seriously, it's bad. It's so bad. Like, if I could give 1,000 times 0 stars, I would do it. Terrible. In any case, we're not talking about Riverside today, but we're talking about what everybody's been talking about the last 2 weeks. We included, but we've had heated discussions about the Odyssey, about whether it's good, whether it's bad, it's a masterpiece, it's a disaster. Who knows at this point? And so we thought, like, what's the one thing missing from the discussion? That is, of course, to think about, like, well, how would a better Odyssey would have looked like? How would our version of the Odyssey would have looked like? Because at the end of the day, we all know the best thing that could happen to the Odyssey is if Elon Musk actually sticks to his promise and gives $100 million to Mel Gibson to make a 10-part TV series of the Odyssey filmed in ancient Greek. But as it's more likely this is going to be done just simply with Grok, without the involvement of any real people and without any real antiquity or Greek stuff, we thought we might just as well do this ourselves and put that money to better use. So this is sort of like our proposal to any sort of investors out there who are daring and want to give it a shot and do the real Odyssey as it would be befitting to the topic. That means, as I'm the host, I have the right, just as I had yesterday, to remain the last speaker in the group and present my take, which, of course, by now you know, but the listeners, the viewers don't yet. So I'll start off once again with Kaiser Bauch. Jakob, you've got a good idea. Tell us about it.
All right. So good morning again, everyone. So first of all, I would say that I'm actually in minority here as a person that really liked the movie by Nolan. So I'm not claiming the version I'm proposing would actually be necessarily better, but I think it is an interesting one. So I was thinking about some kind of settings or some kind of like very different concept in which the Odyssey as a story, as a sort of archetypal story with its themes could be set in. And what came to my mind was the story of the Czechoslovak legions during and especially after the World War I. So during World War I, on the Eastern Front, Austria-Hungary was waging war with the Russian Empire. But there were forces of Czechs and Slovaks that basically deserted to the Russian side and fought against their former homeland, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, because they hoped eventually independent Czechoslovak state would be established, which later happened. Spoilers. And these units, then, of course, they were fighting in a war, but then there was the Bolshevik Revolution. And the Russian Empire basically stopped existing, and the Bolsheviks, they closed a peace deal with Germany and Austria-Hungary, and basically Russia ceased to being an actor in war. Now, there was roughly 50 to 70,000 Czech and Slovak soldiers, and they desperately wanted to get back home to their homeland of newly established Czechoslovakia. Yet the western, the shortest, most logical passage through Europe, that was shut off due to the continuous reason connected to the war and all sorts of mayhem. So they actually needed to go the other way around the whole globe. So they went to the east. They needed to cross the whole Siberia via the railway. So basically the Trans-Siberian railway that went from Moscow to Vladivostok, to the most eastern city of all Russia, near the Pacific Ocean. And at various points throughout their journey, they actually took control of almost all of the railway. And of course, there was this big revolution and civil war and all sorts of upheavals happening in the Russia turning into the Soviet Union. So they very soon started to fight with the Bolshevik units, and they also took place at some points in the various like civil war interventions from outside powers. And I think this story of these people trying to desperately get to their homeland for which they were fighting, but needed to cross the vast, you can say almost like an land ocean of Siberia, of these never-ending flatlands. Instead of boats, they had these fortified trains they used as a transportation. Instead of islands, these little cities with railway stations on the road to Vladivostok. And you could, of course, use a bit of artistic license. So the army, the number of people in the Czechoslovak legions was quite large, as I said, up to 70,000, but they were not traveling all at once. So it was not like one huge army with this massive amount of people. They were spread out. So you can have you would probably use some fictional character, you can make it up, one commander with his unit. They are traveling more or less alone. And of course, as in Odyssey, as they go through these adventures and hardships, many of the soldiers in the unit would gradually die out, and in the end he would be the only one, the commander, the Czech Odysseus. And of course, back home, he has a farm in the beautiful countryside of Czechia. He has a beautiful wife. He has a teenage son, but he is long for many years, and no one knows if he is alive, because the communications back then, letters, telegraph, stuff like that, it was not all that like you had no certainty that your messages would go back home. And indeed, for a number of reasons, they were not going home. So his wife and people in the village, they do not know if he is alive. And all these suitors are trying to persuade his wife to marry them instead of him, so they can get the wife and they can get the big farm, which is obviously a big price. So there would be the sort of like a home front incorporated in the city. And in the Russia on the journey itself, they could meet all of these like characters. They could act as a substitute for the mythological creatures from Odyssey. So you can have some one-eyed, half-crazy, sadistic Bolshevik commander who could be the Cyclops. The sirens could maybe be like, the Bolshevik propaganda trying to get the Czech soldiers to come to their side and start fighting for communism. All sorts of things could be done in this way, because really it was a time of very, like, what they must have witnessed in Russia at the time, it was probably like heavy shit, to say the least. Like, the civilization was basically breaking down. There were these harsh Russian winters, there was famine, there was like civil war going on. So you have all kinds of very, let's say, dubious characters on all sides, not only on the sides of the Bolshevik, but also on the side of like the whites, because, I don't know, some crazy Russian ultra-nationalistic aristocrat or some religious fanatics. And you could, like the supernatural elements, I would probably go for them being implicit in a way. So like you can have some old Russian babushka in some small deserted village giving them some kind of prophecy, and then stuff would happen that would maybe be in accordance with the prophecy, and the characters would be sort of conflicted in inside them, whether this is really something supernatural or if this is just a coincidence. Like it could be done in a more implicit way. And of course, in the end, he would get home. They actually they got to Vladivostok, and then they need to sail around the whole world. So through Japan, many of them through America, from other places. So it was really like quite something, incredible journey. Of course, the only problem when it comes to like being faithful to the source material would be the very ending, because he just can't come home and like murder all the guys that want to marry his wife because he would go to jail. That is what would happen. So that would need it to be done in a way which would sort of like...
If you're in the countryside in Czechia, I think you can get away with some things in the 20s, no?
I mean, maybe, but like it would need like... That would need some tinkering. I admit I have not thought this part through completely, because like you definitely cannot do it in a way that he just come to his village and like murders 5 guys and like, yeah, fuck you, I'm home.
It's because it's your story. Your story.
But like, you know, maybe the president Masaryk would just say, hey, you are such a war hero that it's all good, mate. Good for you.
I mean, this gives me an idea. I mean, like, if we think of a movie like Straw Dogs, it's also like, I mean, like, if you just push him too far, and like maybe he gets home and he tries to, you know, live his normal life again, but these shooters, they just won't relent. They keep harassing him. They keep pushing him over the edge. And at the end of the day, like, you know, he's got to do what he's forced to do. And
you could definitely do it in a way that he just kills them, but it would be hard to end it in a way that he just like Odysseus comes back on the throne. That would be problematic, because like
Law and Order considered heroic anymore to do this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, Law and Order was functioning in Czechoslovakia even in the 20s relatively well, so I think that would be a problem. But like maybe you could do it in a way that. I don't know, maybe put some like national element in it, like they might have been like Germans or something, and they would then like leave to go after the Czechoslovakia gets like established. They might have just leave to go in other state or something like that. I'm not sure how to do it.
Or you get like this whole epilogue of like a courtroom drama where he pleads temporary insanity or something.
Well, that would be incredibly like.
That would be very Nolan. Like, you know, like we just had the nuclear bomb. Let's just sit for 40 minutes in rooms and talk.
No, I
actually like that part of the movie, I have to say.
Sure, I liked it as well.
Yeah.
But like that would need some tinkering, the ending. But other than that, I think like the basic themes are really there. Like the obviously the most fundamental one is the desperate need to get back home, and you do not even know if the home you fought for will be there, how it will look, because everything was very uncertain in the times. And they actually really, like, I think the last ones got home in like 1922, 1923 maybe. So it was like really years of trying to get home all around the world. And they basically needed to go east to come home from the west. So yeah, that would be my take. And I think it could be really interesting. The story of the Legionnaires itself, Odyssey, like just given Odyssey at all aside, is very interesting. And they would deserve like epic historical movie, but like in the Czech context, these things with the budget and stuff are basically like a no-go. So yeah.
Can I say how much I love the fact that this format has sort of turned into Jakub's opportunity to weave all his love for the Russians and the Germans into this format. Like, it's a very Slavic approach to things. Yes.
You gotta represent, right?
No, of course. Like, I mean, I'm fully expecting. I mean, Tristan, we need you to take a hit at the Dutch one of these days, because, like, you know, like for the Dutch, like the Belgians are like the joke of it, and like the Belgians are like the stupid ones, and it's like fun. You guys strike back.
Oh, you mean the Flemish? The Dutch-speaking people of Belgium, the Flemish, you mean?
I don't know. Like in every country, you've got like some sort of minority that is sort of like the joke of like those are the stupid ones. In Germany, it's the East Frisians. In Austria, it's the guys from Burgenland, which is the area that borders with Hungary. And in Holland, it's actually the Belgians. And so I'm like, that's just really me.
But if I can add one last thing, as you were speaking about Germans, so in the end of the First World War, it was not really appropriate to do it like this. But if this would take place in a Second World War, which it didn't, so it doesn't make sense. But like at the end of the Second World War, the German question was obviously like of high importance, and there was the expulsion of millions of Germans. And at the beginning of the expulsions, before the sort of more like civilized and organized expulsions took place, there was something that is called wild expulsions, which was basically people and individual commanders just taking things in their own hands. And there was a lot of like massacres and a lot of dirt, nasty stuff. Many people have been murdered during this period. So if he came home during this period, you could reasonably do like him just murdering like 10 Germans, really like without any repercussions whatsoever. So that could be a scenario where can really like you do the ending, but that would be like taking a lot of artistic license because it was basically.
Well,
I think
but the Odyssey,
because historically, in order to keep the post-war order together, there actually amnesties had been dealt out.
Sure.
For war crimes, just to keep the peace, basically. So
yes.
Realm of possibility.
But we are getting into like
we're getting
unnecessary detail.
But here's the thing, like, I mean, it doesn't have to be. Well, the thing is, like, if it's going to be an Odyssey, the Odyssey was like 20 years. And so if, let's say, that Legion went in there in 1915, or like 16, 17, something like that, and add 20 years to that, you're almost at the beginning of the Second World War already. So if you would really turn it into an Odyssey, not so much like in the historical return, but like really something that is, I mean, you said it yourself, you have to make up the story. And who knows, maybe there's a single commander who actually took a bit of a detour and
arrived in America in the 20s when the jazz age was kicking in. Sort of like, okay, this is not bad. I will maybe spend a decade snorting coke and dancing with
Your Calypso is a jazz singer. One of those jazz clubs. Yep.
I think this is getting somewhere. By the way, before I forget it, for our viewers, if there are any, there is a game that is already based on that story. It's called Last Train Home. It's quite interesting to see that this is a very unknown part of history, at least outside of the Czech Republic. Jakub told us yesterday already that apparently this is like a big story and everybody in Czechia knows it, but outside of it, we don't really. And so I think it's a good topic. And I like actually your revamped version today, because obviously my big own from yesterday where I said like, it's not the Odyssey, it's Anabasis from Xenophon, doesn't work anymore in this setup because you've adjusted it. And I think, it's okay. I mean, we're doing our version of it. And I think it's a cool story that hasn't been really told a lot. Tristan, you got anything to add to Jakub's, or you want to go off with your own?
I'm actually a big fan of the whole at the war period, and then to the detour, America, Jazz Age, Calypso encounter. I kind of like it. It's a mashup, which brings me to my segment, because it's also about the mashup. There you go. I did the transition.
Smooth operator.
Smooth operator, yeah, absolutely. So I was thinking. So when we got the assignment, David said to us, "Okay, we're going to do your version of the Odyssey." And I was thinking it after I walked out of the movie, which is a pretty dour affair. It's a dour movie. I'm actually in the middle about it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just straight in the middle, like center. But I was thinking, it needs some spark. It needs some heroic spirit. It needs some more sort of old-timey romanticism. And I was walking by I was mulling it over in my mind. And I was walking past my bookshelves one day, and I spotted an old friend of mine. It's the father of science fiction. It is Jules Verne, or Jules Verne in French. And I grew up on his books, his adventure novels, which were actually very influential, obviously, on subsequent generations of science fiction writers. And I was thinking, what if I combine Journey to the Center of the Earth with the Odyssey? What if Odyssey and his crew, after I would change nothing to the story, they did the sacking of Troy. He tries to get home, back to Penelope, get rid of the suitors. But what if they encounter Charybdis, the sea monster of legend, of myth, if they encounter that creature far earlier in the story? And what if that sea monster, Charybdis, turned out not to be a sea monster, but actually a portal to the center of the Earth? So, in the original story, you have this, it's always a German scientist for some reason. David, I don't know what it is. We're Austrian,
Well,
but for some reason.
you should take a look at like the Nobel Prize winners in that time. There were a lot of Germans there.
It is slightly odd that Jules Verne, as a Frenchman, didn't go for a French scientist. He went for a German scientist.
No, back then you would go for a French artist and a German scientist.
That's very possible.
Those were the categories.
Yeah. So yeah, in the original work, it's a professor. He has this idea of there might be this volcanic tubes that reach into the center of the Earth, and he drags his nephew along, and they hire an Icelandic guide, and they go to this famous volcano in Iceland to check it out, basically, and they end up there. So what if I just take those away? I don't add no professor, no nephew. We just take the crew. They get swallowed by the Charybdis vortex. I call it sort of a vortex kind of thing, into the center of the Earth. And obviously that opens up a whole realm of possibilities, because the center of the Earth has its own ecosystem. It has many dangers. You have cave-ins, you have subpolar tornadoes, you even have an underground ocean. So the vessel, the ship, it can remain intact, and they can actually still be on the vessel as they explore that whole terrain, that environment. And of course, the biggest aspect, and Jurassic Park lovers are gonna like this: dinosaurs. You have prehistoric creatures. You can have a T-Rex. You can have velociraptors. You can have all kinds of crazy creatures down there. And obviously, just as a personal thing, I was also thinking, so all the myths, all those mythical creatures would still be there. You have a Cyclops, you have those huge guys in their armor, you have a Calypso creature. It's a whole different, there's a whole civilization underneath the Earth, underneath the sea, in the Earth's core. And actually, I would make, I don't know if you guys have you ever seen the horror movie, The Descent by Neil Marshall?
No.
So it's this crew of they're into spelunking. They go into like caves. They rappel down, and they go and they encounter this race of like subterranean creatures that are blind, but they react to sound. So I was thinking, what if we make those giants? What if they are blind, for example, and they react to sound? And they're like ferocious, and they have like this sort of makeshift armor that they use, and it's this whole. I mean, you can go all kinds of directions with this kind of this type of story. And obviously, after all their travails, their trying times, they emerge from the Earth's core, or Odysseus at least emerges. He gets home, and you still have the whole story intact, basically. But it's just a small twist.
So I was wondering, I mean, I love the imagery. I think it's very vivid. I was just thinking that, I said it yesterday, I like the idea that in Jules Verne, you have like this sort of twist on like, oh, you think it's a sea monster. No, it's actually a U-boat, but people don't know because they haven't seen U-boats. So like all the supernatural stuff could be some secret sort of hidden technology thing, but that would be, of course, more of like this is actually taking place in the 19th century, steampunk kind of thing. Your version stays actually in the Bronze Age, in the collapsing Bronze Age.
You could perfectly do a version like that, because obviously any I think there's like this quote, any sufficiently developed technology is like magic to someone that hasn't experienced it. So you could actually, that is an angle, actually a legitimate angle you could take. But to me it was more about capturing the spirit of the Victorian era, because the novel is from 1864. It was an age of exploration, innovation. There's something in the water back then. There's so much going on. Age of exploration. I think that will be really something to capture the wonder, the awe of exploration, going somewhere completely alien, which I don't think the Nolan version really captured to me. It was sort of, I don't want to say blasé, but I felt that sometimes it was sort of how the crew reacted to things. It was sort of blasé, but it's difficult because Nolan tried to.
Blasé is such a fitting word for Nolan.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
in a reality, and I think you lose the awe, you lose the wonderment when you do that. So that's
cool.
how it's approach.
Jakob, what are your thoughts on this proposal?
Well, it is very interesting, but I would actually say that for me, it would be even better if it was set actually in like the 19th century, in that like sort of steampunk industrial era, and it could be made in a way that you have some kind of like a captain or explorer who would be the Odysseus, and he would be like a super rational guy who's like all into science and very enlightened, and we will actually get to understand all these things we do not yet understand, and he would be like an atheist, not believing in anything supernatural, and then he maybe to like hammer the parallel even more, he could be a reading on Odyssey, because back then a lot of these enlightened people, especially in Germany, were super into ancient Greece. Like Germans, they were like the biggest ancient Greece enjoyers. It really like spoke to them in some way, while for example the French were more about Rome. And so he would be like this German scientist, explorer. He would be reading the Odyssey on its way. And then it would happen. They would be like vortex into these like underworld. And then like all of his beliefs would be like heavily tested by like the encounter with the supernatural and with all these unexplainable things. And he would really like struggle to keep his faith in the rational, and something like that could be really interesting, I would say.
I really agree. I think 1886, that's the year. Where it should take place. But yeah, I like it too. I mean, we spoke yesterday about it, about the question of the director. And we were talking, I, for instance, think that like if we do it like in this sort of steampunk 19th century sort of thing, like maybe a little bit camp, like these 50s, 60s movies, I'm thinking the direction of Roger Corman movies. But who did you guys actually have in mind for your proposals? Did any of that change from yesterday? I mean, I know that Jakob has a very special idea as a director for his movie, but Tristan, who should do this?
So if we actually go for, because I'm actually okay with it taking place in the 19th century, actually my answer would be more suitable to that than if I would do it the other way that I initially proposed. Fritz Lang. It has to be Fritz Lang, because it is the combining of Metropolis technology and then the Ring des Nibelungen, the mythical Fritz Lang. You combine those two for that movie, and I think you can have something. Obviously, it will not be commercially viable. It will be my own pet project.
Yeah. You were saying like, is it still like a stop motion silent movie? So
for the monster effects, actually, I would like something that is not digital, just stop motion. I want that sort of a certain naivete of early cinema. I want that. I want that aspect of it. I don't want it to look too sleek. That would ruin the charm of it.
Tristan really wants the studio to lose money.
Yes, I want the studio to go bankrupt themselves.
Yeah. That said, I think your proposal as it is right now, I think is probably the most easy to realize in Grok already now. So you can go for it.
I'm on it right now. I'm on Grok right now. I'm doing it.
Jakob, and you still sticking with Tommy?
Well, so yesterday I told that I would just go to Elon Musk and swear to him there will be no non-white people in the movie, and I would try to persuade him to give $100 million to Tommy Wiseau to make the movie with Grok. So you can have all kind of funny scenes as like the suitors knocking on the door and asking the wife, anyway, how is your sex life? That was obviously a joke, even though it would be probably pretty neat to see. But actually, now when I'm thinking
Still
about
commercially more viable than Tristan's option.
Oh, very, very, very commercially viable in this in this day and age. But I would actually say that, like, for my version, which would obviously be less mythological, more like realistic. Christopher Nolan would probably actually be a very good director for that kind of version. Like, he would probably be better for my version than for the version he make. Like, he could do this sort of thing. So yeah, why not?
Let's go to Nolan and say, hey, we all agree this didn't quite work out. You want to give it another shot? I think so too, actually.
Maybe we can propose directors. All right.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
I was actually thinking maybe it's a very obvious choice, but I was thinking, obviously he isn't alive anymore, but Tarkovsky.
You really want the studio to go bankrupt? Like it's like
Yes, I want Tarkovsky for the part of the movie in Europe. For the Jazz Age America, I probably want Baz Luhrmann or something.
Why did I put you in charge of social media for Leo again?
Because you are a madman.
Black and white, silent, Tarkovsky directed, and budget of $300 million.
True cinema is taking huge risks, and sometimes they pay off, and sometimes they don't. And that's the fun of it. It's high stakes. You only live once.
True, very true, very true. All right, I'll move on. And yesterday I presented my best Mike impersonation of Red Letter Media. I've made a list. I will probably not stick to this list today as much as I did yesterday, and I'll just try to wing it in most parts. So I was thinking, like, obviously I'm probably among the three of us the closest to the purist in terms of like the Odyssey that we got. I wanted something that sticks closer to Homer, etc., etc. So I was thinking, like, okay, well, as we said, we all want Mel Gibson to do it, Okay, that's out of the way anyway. So what if I could think of something that is a freer adaptation, a more modern adaptation, but at the same time that sticks more or less to the spirit of the original, because the spirit is something that is being talked about a lot as well. So I was thinking, like, okay, what do we have? We have, in the Odyssey, we have heroes. We have beautiful and dangerous women. We've got lots of ocean and naturally also beaches. And so the most natural parallel to that in modern day would be, of course, the extended Baywatch universe, which, of course, should be filmed by, I can give the director away right away. It would, of course, be a Michael Bay movie because, like, you know, you got to, like, fusion. It's an enormous release of energy that would come from it. So we're going into the Baywatch universe. And yesterday I was still thinking The Rock would be a good choice to play Odysseus because he's strong, he's action capable, he's got attitude, and he's also funny. But then actually Jakob reminded me that I'm just, tiptoeing the real answer. And we all know that the only real answer, and especially if we're talking now that probably the only way this is ever going to happen is anyway going to be Grok, then obviously it's got to be peak Arnold, because he already has the experience of playing actually a deity, a Greek deity. I mean, his very first movie, the legendary Hercules in New York, was already like a glimpse into what could have been or what should be. And if you take like some lines from the 2017 Baywatch movie, which back then The Rock did, and you would imagine it being said by Arnold instead. No, I was born of the sea. I eat fire coral and I piss salt water. I scratch my back with a whale stick and I loof up my chest with his ball sack. I'll die when the tide stops and the moon drowns. Until then, I'm oceanic, motherfucker. So you see, it's right there. It's right on the table. And so this is like the initial glory point that is there. Then, of course, we need other roles. And so we can have peak Pamela Anderson as Calypso. We can throw Sydney Sweeney in there as Cersei. We can have like the older Pamela Anderson, sort of as a callback to the Nolan double header of Helen of Troy and what's her name? Not Chlamydia, the other one. Any case. Sorry, Clytemnestra. I'm not that stupid. But so she could also be the older Pamela Anderson, could be Penelope. But what's most important is that it's not just a fun thing, and it is obviously a very fun thing, but there are a couple of things that are real parallels to the way the story is told, to the way Homer did it. So Baywatch speaks also, like Homer, in epithets. What does that mean? Homer talks about the swift-footed Achilles and the gray-eyed Athena, and it has what is it? The rosy-fingered Dawn, as a very famous part of the story. And these things always keep coming back. They tell you something about the character, and they're sort of like tied directly to the character. And the equivalent of that in a Baywatch universe would be, of course, the different degrees of slow motion that people get. You recognize them by their slow motion run, because that is sort of their language of choice. Also, Baywatch dialogue is, by its definition, boast poetry. So what you have in Homer quite a lot is that, they fight and there's action going on, and then a hero stops in the middle of the fight and he announces something about why he is the best and the strongest and whatever. That's exactly what Baywatch does all the time. And like everything stops and it gives, Mitch Buchanan the time to deliver dialogues or monologues like the one I just read before. But then it becomes interesting. And that's where it becomes actually better than Nolan. I know this sounds weird, but Nolan will be redeemed once he makes Jakob's movie. Baywatch has Kleos. And Kleos, that is the concept of glory, of reputation. That is what is missing in Nolan's version. This is what we call it's like gray and depressed, etc. But Baywatch, and as the Odyssey, is all about I'm the best and I want to be the best, and the world should know it. So like the lifeguards, they're not just like doing their shift. They're on a mission. They represent, and they want their names on that beach to be known like far after they're gone. And I think there's a real parallel there. But, and that's also an important part, the Baywatch universe also knows Xenia. So the guest ride that everybody's talking about in Nolan's version is very much the definition of what lifeguards do. Like somebody is helped out of the water, you don't ask them who they are. No. You first feed them, you keep them warm, you help them, and after that you ask them. So it's all there. It's ripe for the taking. And of course, we can keep the gods just in a slightly different way. So Poseidon, for instance, could be the commissioner of the coastal service, who you never meet in person, but he sends you like angry letters, and he's more or less like a letterhead. Like he's an angry letter, and he directs you to go there. There's nothing you can do about it, because he's like this overarching bureaucracy, which I think is a beautiful 2026 analogy to what gods are. Our modern version of it is bureaucracy in this atheistic day and age. Now, let's see. We've had already the casting. We've had the gods. I'm flying over this. Yeah, so some plot highlights that we can include. So in the beginning, just so you have an idea, and we can imagine lots of details later, Troy is actually a competing section of the beach, which is run by a private lifeguard company. And the chief of the lifeguards has, been like at war with them more or less for 10 years already, because they think they're better than us, etc., etc. But like Mitch and the guys, they know that, they don't really stick to the code. They're like they got to sort it out. And so they infiltrate actually a beach foam party there, which turns out to be like, there turn out to be some drugs involved, etc., etc. And then Mitch catches one of the lifeguards actually swimming stoned with some of the party goers. And that, of course, goes against the lifeguard code. And that's how he catches them. And the private Troy Beach section is shut down. But then on his way back home to his tower, he stumbles across another illegal beach party, which he wants to dissolve because he's just the kind of guy who just can't let it slide because, it's his duty, it's his beach, and, it's like that. And these guys, they flee into the water onto their jet skis, and he pursues them and he follows them, and there's a chase sequence, and they end up in a storm, and that's how they get spread out. So his crew is actually not his crew, but it's actually a bunch of party stoners, which is also why we don't care when they all die by the end, because they're just basically dead weight. And so they end up in different parts, and you can have like the Lotus Eaters, which would be, for instance, like some Venice Beach drum circle sort of thing where they smoke some more heavy shit, and then, he has to get them out. Obviously, you've got Cersei, who runs like this luxurious health spa where she gives the crew like some sort of whey protein shake, which actually turns the crew into actual gym rats. I think this is brilliant. Calypso, which is Pamela Anderson, as we said, she lives like in this secluded island cove. And that's actually another nod to Nolan. It's like an Interstellar where you have this one planet where time moves like super fast or slow, depending on how you look at it. So on her island, everything is always in slow motion. So actually, Mitch only lands there just to restock and get some water or something. But everything is so slow that actually he loses 7 years just by running up and down the beach once. And that's it. And it's really fateful. So it gives a spin to it, because it's not just he's having a good time with peak Pamela, but he's actually trapped in slow motion. And that leads us to the sirens, because the sirens in the original are givers of knowledge, not just tempting women. Here we confuse this because it's got to stay fun. So it's like this all-female beach volleyball team, and they're playing all day long, beach volleyball, but they're doing it in 4K, 240 frames per second slow motion. And that's like, everybody who knows that that's like the golden area of like, that's the kind of slow motion you want. And it's a technical marvel that this is possible in this day and age. So while every man who sees this will inevitably crash his jet ski into a rock and drown, Mitch is the only one who can actually stand it. And so he ties himself to the jet ski and he watches it, but not for like the beach volleyball team that's playing there, but for the technological marvel, because he wants to see 4K 240 frames per second live in reality, the full glory of it. Now, an important part of it is Polyphemus and the Cyclops. This is where we take a bit of a detour, and we can realize that with a wink, because it is, in fact, a lighthouse. So there's a lighthouse keeper, obviously, but he keeps the lighthouse, and the lighthouse has, as we know, one lamp on top, and Mitch smashes it to flee. And then when he's fleeing, that's where we can also keep the original dialogue, because again, we're back to boast poetry. We have Cleos, we have Mitch shouting like, "You take down the name." it's Mitch Buchanan. Yes, this is my number, my service number. And, and then the lighthouse keeper complains to the commissioner, and the commissioner bans Mitch to another tower. And it's not fair. But yeah. By the way, the Lestrygonians, very good one. And I have to give props to Jakob on that, because it wasn't quite worked out yesterday. But basically, this is Muscle Beach, where they actually encounter, and I know Arnold is already huge, and we all know how he got to be that huge. But these are like super jacked up giants on steroids, like just bodybuilders that are so incredibly massive and who have enormous roid rage, which is why as soon as the crew lands there, especially like all these stoners that Odysseus is traveling with, they are like stick figures to them. And so they get incredibly upset about this lack of masculinity. And so they smash them and they smash their jet skis. And that's why only one jet ski with Mitch can survive and flee the scene. So it's all there. And then basically once he returns home to his main tower, where Pamela Anderson is holding out against a bunch of crypto bros who are trying to actually take over that beach and privatize it, she arranges like a competition where there's this life-saving can of Mitch, because he used it for workout reasons. So Arnold, it is made out of solid lead, and none of the crypto bros can even lift it. But then actually he takes it, he lifts it, and he throws it through 12 life-saving life rings. And that's when everybody recognizes it's the real Mitch who's back. Because, just seeing Arnold in person wouldn't have been enough to recognize him. So he really pulled off that beggar outfit. And by the time, and then in the end, he just all smashes them and he beats them up. And, it can be lighthearted. He doesn't have to kill them. He can do a bit of like a Bud Spencer, Terence Hill sort of thing, like, go away, I'm back. And that could be actually the final word, like, of the movie. I'm back. And I think this concludes it. Hand me my Oscars.
Yeah. I mean, when he would be in disguise as a beggar, he would also need to change his accent. So the big revelation would that be that he would finally speak like with the heavy Austrian one. But I think this version, that would be like the Nietzschean right, the sort of people that are really into antiquity. I think they really would dig this, because like it would really bring home the whole like what is natural and healthy and beautiful is also true and good. And all these jacked up lifeguards and Arnold and all these like beautiful women in bikinis. That's it. Very good. Also, I wanted to say, like,
by the way, if Michael Bay is not available, and since we're actually flexible in time periods, actually Lady Riefenstahl should probably film it.
But Michael Bay is a good choice, and my favorite movie by Michael Bay is Armageddon, and I always laugh at this thing from the movie where Ben Affleck, who stars in the movie, said in many interviews that he came to Michael Bay and said to him, "So Michael, just explain to me, why is it easier to learn the drillers to be astronauts than to learn the astronauts to be drillers?" And Michael Bay just looked at him and says, "Shut the fuck up." And that was the end of the debate.
The only right answer.
Yeah. So I think like Michael Bay would really be a very good choice.
Yes, I'm again. We're talking about peak, and I think this was peak Michael Bay. Yes, I love the line also of Steve Buscemi at some point where he's like on the asteroid and everything is like collapsing and flying through the air, and he says something along the lines of like, "What are we even doing here?"
That was very meta. But David, where are the explosions? Because it's a Michael Bay movie, it needs explosions. So you need to furnish those.
Arnold needs to walk in slow motion away from a huge explosion without looking at it. Yeah, that's for sure.
Basically, every monster that is defeated needs to explode.
Yeah,
like even like Calypso, like he walks away and Calypso just.
I think I know how you do it with the jet ski. I'm assuming it needs like a petrol can. So you can just toss petrol cans and make them explode or something. Make them
listen. It's not like an explosion in a Michael Bay movie needs like some sort of trigger or some explanation. It's just there. I mean,
it's just
part of the lore.
It's. I wish I could love something as much as Michael Bay loves explosions. I don't think I do, and I need it in my life.
Who actually made this 2017 Baywatch movie? Do you guys know? I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I have forgotten. Actually, I do like that movie. It's actually not that bad.
Oh, you saw it actually, okay?
I actually saw it. Yeah. I'm an aficionado. I'm a Baywatch aficionado.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
so
weird flex, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, do you know the theme song? I'll Be Ready.
Yeah.
It's basically my motto. It's the song I play all the time. It's just great fun.
Okay. It's Seth Gordon.
Baywatch it's just people having fun. It has
18% on Rotten Tomatoes.
The new movie?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when I hear of Baywatch, I immediately think of Pamela Anderson, and when I think of Pamela Anderson, I just go straight to Borat in my mind. So that is just the connection I have. Her trying to get her home to Kazakhstan to marry her. So yeah. Also, Borat getting home from Kazakhstan could also be made as an Odyssey. That would be interesting.
Nice.
With that fat sidekick of his.
Yeah.
Guy, the grubby guy.
It's another movie I haven't seen, I must admit. I think I started like the first 10 minutes and then I was like, I think I know where this is going.
I mean, the hotel scene in Borat when Borat and the fat sidekick guy are completely naked and they are like lying together on a bed and fighting.
If you thought the Cyclops scene in Nolan's film was traumatizing, that hotel scene is far exceeds it.
That hotel scene also shows that what is healthy and what is beautiful is also true and good. So,
well, so in any case, I like the idea that we, at least compared to Tristan's movies, my proposal has a target audience and can earn back its budget. So,
I'm going to invest in that movie. If you ever make it, I'm going to invest in it.
Tristan going to sell all of his watches and invest all of the money in the movie.
I'm not personally going to invest in that. I'm gonna get some sucker to invest in it.
Nobody will, Tristan. I'm sorry.
Maybe some strange. I'm aiming for an eccentric billionaire that really loves Fritz Lang and the Odyssey and Jules Verne and.
I know one which may be deserving to lose a big bunch of money, so I should put you in touch.
Yes, we're not.
All right, guys. Well, I think this tops it off. I mean, are there any honorable mentions that came to your mind since yesterday, or are we saying like this is all so glorious that?
I mean, now I'm just imagining the Borat Odyssey scenario, and I think we should probably end it before it gets out of hand.
He will actually get a woman in that scenario, Calypso. He will get a woman. Is much vaunted. His goal of getting a woman will be met.
Yes,
by meeting Calypso.
But the thing is, like, if you do it in the Borat universe, and I mean, I don't really know a lot about it, as I just said, but I would imagine that there needs to be a twist to it. So it turns out to be some sort of transgender guy that from Georgia that.
And maybe Penelope is a figment of his imagination.
I mean, they're like it. No, it lines up very well because he has the neighbor that he really hates because he's just this envious piece of shit that like when Borat buys a radio, he bought a radio, and he always does the same thing. Also, Borat's sister is like the best prostitute in all of Kazakhstan. That is very established in the law. He's very proud of it. So you can do all sort of stuff in there. Yeah,
she's nice.
Yeah. Okay. I'm picking up Jakob on his proposal that this is getting out of hand now. So I'll take the opportunity.
We can't do references because David hasn't seen those films. So Yeah,
but
no problem.
it's vivid enough as is. In that respect, I want to thank you guys for your contributions. It's been a great pleasure to doing this. And I thank all of the 3 remaining viewers for actually sticking with us. And if you think this was fun, then tune in hopefully next week again. And we'll surprise you with what nonsense we come up with until then. All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
All right.